All right, so that moves us into the Survivor Series. So this week we were featuring a story from Dawn Atkins, and Dawn really shares a story from being the caregiver point of view about her husband, Bill Rockenbach. It's Rockenbach and Rockenbach. I'm butchering it, and I apologize, Bill. He survived an aortic dissection and subsequent abdominal aneurysm surgery. I mean, this was all in the same week, which is crazy. I know I was upset when I had to have abdominal surgery cut back open 6 weeks later. I can't even imagine if your brain can process the fact that you just survived an aortic dissection and they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we're in the end of the week when you're just finally getting out of bed to take a walk. We're just gonna do what we need to do for your abdominal area as well." I mean, that's crazy. But she did a great job of detailing this account of experiencing navigating the unknown with this medical diagnosis, the surgery, the recovery, and we're just so thankful that again we had another caregiver share their perspective of the experience. So yeah,
That
crazy.
was only less than 5 months ago. It's a really great story from her point of view, her as the caregiver who, you know, more and more I listen to the caregiver sides of the story, and
Hmm.
they're doing it all without painkillers and drugs and IVs. I mean, they are doing, the patient is
Yeah.
obviously battling their own, but they have a little medical and medicine assistance. And then you think of the caregivers who's going through all of it just raw.
I
And
never thought about it that way, but you're right.
it's all everyone
Yeah.
has their battle, but yeah, I think from the caregiver, yeah, they're extra strong people.
Oh, for sure.
Tough.
And you made a very good point. We're half knocked out. If we're uncomfortable, we can just hit the medicine button, but they're awake. I mean, they're probably still processing the fact that they had to plan a funeral in their mind, and now this person's pulled through. And what does the future look like? What's tomorrow look like? And every time we would grimace in pain or we would just fall asleep in the middle of a conversation, is that normal? Is that normal? I mean, their lives just are so upended. And I think that we know that, but I don't think we'll ever understand it fully.
When
Yeah.
the patient writhes in pain or raises their hand or, attention is on them, but the caregiver it's not getting that attention either.
Right.
They're not. They're just on
Yeah.
their own going through it, and it's pretty amazing. And her story was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yep. So everybody get a chance to check that out. And we would love to hear from you. We'd love to feature you in our Survivor series. And all you need to do is really complete the form. There is a link to the form on our website. And you can do it three ways. You can do it in a blog format, which we'll hear from Molly in a minute, can get translated into a Audible at some point through our YouTube channel here. You could also do a pre-recorded video, which is very simple, especially if you're fearful that you might get emotional, but we love emotional. We love it. But we've actually had somebody who did costume changes. She must have changed her clothes 4 or 5 times. She just really got into it and had a lot of fun. And so that was pre-recorded, or you can go live like we are, which then enables you an opportunity to take questions. We found that the Survivor series are very validating for those that are listening, and it kind of causes some opportunities to bring up topics with your own physician. But I know when I hear people talk or tell their story, there's so many times I'm like, God, they said exactly what was in my mind I've never really said before. It's so good to hear it out loud. And it's therapeutic for the ones that are being featured as well. I think sometimes just getting it out of your system is really helpful. And then when you read it and you have a chance to go back, let's say 2 months later, and you look at how things were, and then you see how things are presently, and you see that difference, and you can really feel the progression. It really is also a wonderful experience too. So tell us a little bit about these audibles that are happening and some of the stories you've been listening to.
Well, I just love this whole series, whether it's video, live, blogs, reading it. But the audio blogs are great for me when I'm walking the beach, 3 or 4 miles, or even in the car, and I can't look at my phone to see who's talking. It's just Audible is just the written story that someone would have submitted and was featured at one point, and it has just been put to an audio version, so you
Hmm.
can listen to it, and it isn't a computerized voice. It's pleasant voice. Now there's the English accent. There's it's
That's
it
fun.
It is. It's good. I like it. It's just another way to listen to these stories, and some of them have been around for a while, but just got pushed in the audio version. So it's nice to hear them, and I particularly like the video blog. I
Mhm.
like seeing someone's face, and you're right, the emotion. Sometimes they share their kids, or their husband will walk in, or their dog, and you see their expression. I
Mhm.
enjoy the video, but the alternative of the written is just as good.
I like the videos sometimes because you're just seeing the person alive and they're just living their best life. They're functioning, they're doing it. And I was always one that said, before aortic hope, before this, even when I had my ostomy, if somebody came in and just said, "Hey, I have this too, check me out." Like, I'm moving, I'm standing here talking to you. I wouldn't have thought I was going to implode if I stood up, that everything was going to explode and fall apart. I'd feel like they knew, they understood. Look, nurses, they're so amazing and the doctors are great, but they never had a chest tube that I know of come out of them, let
Yeah.
alone an NG tube or central line, or possibly they've had a cath, depending upon if they've had certain surgeries. But until you've had these things, like, you can't 100% empathize with me and what I'm going through, or even explain what it's going to feel like. All you can say is it's going to hurt. It's not going to be pleasant. That's about all it, because you've been told that, but you don't know it. We know it, and we know it is so unpleasant. So that's different between it's not going to be pleasant and, bringing the devil voices out of your system as it comes out. So, yeah, and there's just a difference when you get to hear somebody else and you're like, yes, yes, I
And
can
you can
do that.
see them, in their better version. They're not going
Yeah,
through that anymore, and
right.
it's really. And I think you're right about the looking back on it.
Hmm.
Video or a blog that you wrote, it's a diary of sorts that
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm so different than when I was then, or look at me,
Hmm.
look how good I was doing then. And
Yeah.
like, I think they're just
That's
great.
cool.
And
So cool.
I'm just amazed at how many of these stories there's a very similar thread, which is misdiagnosis put out in the
Hmm.
hallway, and
Yeah.
how they overcame that. And now we're starting to hear some stories where their surgeon had actually heard of think aorta, or somebody had already been involved with the dissection, so they knew what to look.
Hmm.
So it's
That's
interesting.
the best. That's the best because it's only been in the United States since 2019. So you would think that in 4 years, but if you can't really count COVID years, so let's say we got about 3 years that it's now starting to come around and people are hearing about it. Even if they heard about it from the UK, they are now recognizing that this campaign is thriving here in the States and isn't going anywhere anytime soon. We're just scratching the surface. So that's awesome.